Hey, this is Dr. Barry. In this quick video, I want to talk to you about a very important topic that doesn't get talked about a lot. A lot of doctors never mention this, and it's the fact that you might just have intestinal parasites or worms. Ugh, I know, right? Up to a third of people in Western society, in the America, US, Canada, Australia, UK, have intestinal parasites or worms. And a lot of times you don't get tested for this, and this is a big deal that we need to talk about. First, please take 1 second and click the subscribe button, please. It helps me reach more people, and if you'll click the little bell icon right beside the subscribe button, then you'll get a notification every time I have a bright idea. Now let's talk about worms, and if you got them, and if you do, what to do about it, okay? This is somewhat of a gross topic, This is a very gross topic, but I think it's vital because there are so many people walking around, people that we know who have intestinal parasites, and they can either be worms or they can be ova, the eggs of worms, or they can be protozoan, just single-celled organisms. But nonetheless, they're parasites and they're living inside your body. And they can really give you a world of symptoms and cause you a lot of problems until you figure out what's going on and fix the situation. Now, the symptoms of having intestinal parasites can range from the very obvious, like itching, severe itching on the other end, you get my drift, or seeing worms where after you've had a bowel movement and you see worms. That's the obvious way that you can be tested. There's a couple of tests that doctors can do at the doctor's office, and usually that'll catch some of the worms. But if you have particular types of parasites, there's really no test unless the doctor goes inside your colon with a colonoscope or does surgery. They can't really find the worms or any evidence of them. And so you could be walking around right now with intestinal parasites, with worms in your intestines and not even know it, because some of the symptoms are very, very vague. Chronic fatigue, chronic aches and pains, chronic abdominal bloating, abdominal pain that's very vague, that CAT scans can't see worms, ultrasounds can't see worms, and so you could have had the full workup, or so you thought, and still have intestinal parasites. I know, right? So I'm going to tell you what to do about that later in the video. The diagnosis, like I said, sometimes is very straightforward. Sometimes you see worms, or you have severe itching, or some of the tests your doctor can do in the doctor's office show up positive. But here's the problem. Here's the huge problem, and this is the problem that really pisses me off, okay? And it really upsets me. Big Pharma bought up the rights to the anti-parasite medications, okay? Used to, there were several manufacturers, and they made the medicines albendazole and mebendazole. And with those, back when I was training, for instance, back in my residency, when someone came to the clinic and we diagnosed them with worms or parasites, you could write them 1 or 2 pills, just 1 or 2 pills that they would take of albendazole or mebendazole, and it literally cost $1. That's how cheap the medication was, okay? And they were cured. That was it. They were done. Now, since Big Pharma, some of the big pharmaceutical houses, and I'm not going to mention any names because they're a little sue happy lately, but they've bought up the rights to these 2 generic drugs. They've been generic for decades, okay? They literally cost pennies to make a dose that would cure you of your worms. But now, since these pharmaceutical houses have bought up these rights, one treatment for one person can cost hundreds of dollars. Yeah, that's right. And I thought one of the main purposes of our federal government was to prevent monopolies. But evidently, if you have the right lobbyists and you take the right people to lunch, or the right people on whatever kind of little fundraiser thing that you do in Washington, D.C., then you can have a monopoly and it's okay, up to and including a monopoly that can affect people's health. Because that's currently what's happening in America. A medication that used to cost pennies, now cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And I think that's bullcrap. And that really makes me mad. And that's one of the things that our federal government is supposed to protect us from, but obviously they are not. If you're in on other continents, in other countries, you can still buy these medications for pennies. Without even a prescription, you can buy them. But in America, you're going to pay several $100s for these prescriptions, and that's ridiculous. But I can't do anything about that today, but we'll see about the future. But what I'm going to tell you about now are natural ways that you can make your colon very inhospitable to worms and other parasites, so they'll just leave on their own, and you don't have to spend hundreds of dollars for the prescription medications, okay? There's 5 things I'm going to tell you about, and I'm going to put some links below to products, but you don't have to buy these products if you just want to get the natural things and use them themselves, okay? The first one is wormwood extract or oil. And wormwood is something that's been around for thousands of years. Human beings have known for hundreds, if not thousands of years, that this natural extract gets rid of worms. And it's been known for so long that they named the stuff wormwood. Isn't that cool how we kind of figure stuff out by trial and error before we have an FDA or a USDA to help us with this stuff? We kind of figured it out anyway, didn't we? So you can get wormwood and use it as instructed, and you can find the instructions on numerous websites. I'm not going to bore you with all the details. I just want to give you the concept so you can do your own research. Wormwood extract, worms hate it, okay? Parasites hate that stuff. And so when you use that either in a product or in its natural form, you tend to run the worms out. And most people, there's multiple testimonials on YouTube of people who took it, and then I'll let them describe the results in the bathroom later because it's a little bit gross. That's number 1. Number 2 is black walnut hull extract or tincture. And if any of you guys have ever fooled with black walnuts before, we have a bunch of black walnuts on my grandparents' farm, and they love to crack the walnuts and use the kernels in baked goods and stuff, and they're actually, the walnut kernels are very, very, very good for you to eat just by themselves. But the green hulls, man, stink, and they have this noxious chemical in them, and they'll actually stain your fingers for months if you try to knock them out of their hulls. But that extract, guess who else hates that extract? Intestinal worms and parasites also hate that extract. And so you can buy black walnut hull tincture on the internet, or you can just get the black walnut hulls if you live in the southeastern United States and make it yourself, I guess, but it's really a messy process. I don't know if I'd recommend that. The next is cloves. It's been known for hundreds of years that cloves, or the oil from cloves, is very noxious to intestinal worms and parasites. The next is garlic, eating lots of raw garlic. And, some people worry about, I'll stink if I eat a lot of raw garlic. And Nisha and I just fixed this problem. We both love garlic, so we both just eat raw garlic every day, and that way we smell good to each other because we smell the same. But raw garlic is noxious to intestinal parasites. They don't like it, and that'll tend to make them vacate the premises, which is what you're after anyway. And the final one is pumpkin seeds with the hull on. And you can actually buy a big pumpkin at the store, get the seeds out, and you can use the pumpkin and eat the flesh of the pumpkin in various recipes. It's very delicious. But you need to bake the seeds with the hull on. You can salt them and season them and put some good bacon grease on those and let them roast in the oven for a while. And something about that the parasites do not like at all. So these 5 things, either in combination in a product or individually if you want to take the time to do it yourself, can cost you less than $100 if you did all 5 of them, right? But work probably just as good as the prescription drugs that now cost, thanks to Big Pharma, hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Now, if you enjoy this type of video, please take a moment and click that subscribe button. If you know someone who's worried about parasites or who has these symptoms that I talked about, please share this video with them. Share this on your social media so that all the people walking around with worms who don't even know it can get rid of those worms or those parasites, okay? And if you really enjoy the videos that I do, there's a Patreon link down below. You can click and go to that website, and it's very simple to throw a buck or two at me and give me more time to make more videos just like this one. Now, this is Dr. Barry, and I'll see you next time.